Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Special Economic Zones. I'm your host, Ainsley Brown. In today's talk, we're going to cover performance-based fiscal incentives. So before we get into that, let's back up a little bit and say what is a fiscal or what is an incentive in relation to SEZs. These are what the sweeteners the pull, what the governments do or design within their regimes to pull investors. And these can come in a variety of forms. There can be fiscal incentives or financial incentives or non-fiscal and non-financial incentives. So for fiscal incentives, these are where you typically dealing with taxes, where the investor is incentivized by giving them a break on, reduced corporate income tax rate, for example, some sort of duty waivers, land taxes, or things like that of that nature, or some sort of depreciation, capital depreciation incentives. These are the typical types of fiscal incentives. They relate to taxes. In terms of financial incentives, some regimes actually reward um, investors with cash grants or reduced loan interest rates with holiday periods for repayment and such and so forth. And non-fiscal incentives or non-fiscal and non-financial are as they are none of those things, where it's more about offering up efficiency or offering up the benefits of a location, located close to a port or airport or both, in between both, or transportation links, moving through customs speedily or through immigration speedily, things like that. Those are the non-fiscal um, incentives. So when you get to performance-based fiscal incentives, these are where, or even financial performance-based financial incentives, this is where the investor's performance is tied to the incentive. So one of the examples is tied to employment. You could, for example, get a tax credit for employing up to a certain amount of folks. Now, you say you already are getting a reduced corporate income tax rate um, of 10%, and then you could further reduce that by 2% if you employ, say, 200 employees. Now you don't get that credit unless you do that. So it's performance based. Um, Another example of performance based is, for example, renewal of your license. You could get a 5-year license, and then you're eligible for a renewal at the end of the 5 years. It could be tied to capital investments or other things like employment as well, but you could tie it to capital investment. So over those 5 years, you're agreeing to, or the investors agreed to invest a certain amount of capital in the zone. And if they don't, either the renewal doesn't happen or their fiscal incentives are reduced because they didn't fulfill that commitment. Um, so those are performance-based fiscal incentives. And increasingly, you'll see that countries are using those more and more and moving away from the more traditional, old school type of fiscal incentive where investors are given the incentive and your no performance measures are tied to it. You know, Another, as I'm thinking now, another example of fiscal incentive could be where you incentivize not so much the zone itself, but those that sell to the zone. Costa Rica, for example, has this, where if you sell to the zone, I think it's 50% of your sales, you then become entitled to some of the benefits that the zone folks are entitled to. Therefore, you're incentivizing that linkage, and multiplying that spillover effect that zones ought to have within an economy. So performance-based fiscal incentives are a critical policy tool of governments. If you like this episode, please share, please comment. If you want to see me cover a particular topic, please leave a comment down below and I'll get right back to you. Thank you.